So President Biden and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen have come up with a new strategy to stop Vladimir Putin from using his oil revenues to finance his war. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Reiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So President Biden has made it very clear that he's serious about providing global leadership in his effort to help Ukraine win the war against the Russian invaders. And in Janet Yellen, he's got a powerful ally. You have to remember, not only is she the former chairperson of the Federal Reserve Board, and a generally acknowledged very good one at that. In fact, despite the fact that she's a Democrat, Donald Trump actually thought about reappointing her. But she's also an academic economist. And as such, she's tried to identify a way to deal with the problem that we have with the sanctions that have been imposed on Russia. You see, the Russian economy has really been hurt by the sanctions. In fact, there are estimates that the Russian economy is going to shrink by about 10% this year. I mean, that's getting close to the kind of economic catastrophe that Venezuela was dealing with. But Putin has actually managed to kind of blunt the impact of some of these sanctions, much more so than I think President Biden and some of our allies have wanted. And the way that he's been able to do that is through the sale of oil. Now, as we know, the United States has banned the sale of Russian oil here, which really doesn't make a difference because we import very little Russian oil. Europe, which has imported quite a bit of Russian oil and gas, has actually been reducing the amount they're purchasing and is going to be starting an embargo. And Putin, who's really frustrated with the European support of our effort to hobble his economy and stop his war against the Ukrainians, has wanted to punish the Europeans by denying them access to his energy wealth. So what's happened is because of the fact that oil prices are so high on the global market right now, for various reasons, which I've discussed in another video, he's been able to sell his oil specifically to China and India at a pretty steep discount from what they'd be paying for oil on the global market from just about anybody else, but still at a substantial profit to the Russians because of the fact that extracting oil and gas from the Russian steppe is, frankly, pretty cheap. In fact, it's been estimated that it might cost Russia as little as $5 a barrel to extract their oil. And as of today, the price of oil is running somewhere between $112 and $120 per barrel. So even if he's selling it at, say, $80 or $90 a barrel, he's making a huge profit on the oil he's selling, providing him enough income to support his war effort, while also basically giving money to Russians to kind of blunt the impact of the economic sanctions. In fact, it's been estimated that his oil revenue right now is running about $1 billion a day. That's real money any way you talk about it. So Janet Yellen came up with this idea of creating kind of an upside-down cartel. A cartel, as you know, is kind of a group of suppliers of some good who essentially create a monopoly or an oligopoly. And because of the fact that they group together and kind of coordinate their pricing, they're able to guarantee a very high price for what they sell. The most famous cartel, of course, is OPEC, a group who President Biden is trying to woo right now to try to get them to actually lower the price of oil a little bit. And within the United States, cartels are illegal. But the idea is rather than having a monopoly where you have a supplier controlling the price of the market, we'd set up what's called a monopsony, the opposite of it, where it's basically the buyers who coordinate and in so doing control the price of the market. In other words, the plan would be that we'd say, okay, we're going to pay Russia, say, no more than $25 to $30 per barrel. That would limit the profits that Russia is able to extract from its oil sales, while also being high enough that it would make sure that they kept pumping the oil. Now, how do you kind of enforce such a deal? Well, as it turns out, about 95% of the world's oil shipping is insured through a consortium of insurers based in London. And what the plan is for the United States essentially to coordinate with these insurers, where they're willing to essentially grant insurance to shippers shipping Russian oil, which currently they don't do, if the price of the oil is no more than the amount set at that cap. Now, President Biden presented this idea at the recent G7 summit meeting and received a pretty favorable response. Such a favorable response, in fact, that the Prime Minister of Italy is saying that they need to do a similar strategy with respect to the purchase of gas from Russia. Now, to be sure, there are challenges to making this work. The first and most obvious one would be, what if China and India don't go along? But the hope is that they'll say, part of the reason we're buying this Russian oil is because we're getting a discount relative to global markets. But yet these other purchasers are paying less than we are. So we want to at least pay that price, if not less. So the hope is that this would kind of create a bandwagon effect where everybody wants to get a cheaper price from Russia. The second risk is that Vladimir Putin will say, you know what? We're just going to stop pumping oil, or at least stop pumping as much oil as we are. Now that would run against his own self-interest, given the fact that the price would still be set that they'd be making a little bit of money, just not as much as they'd like to, and as they are now. But I think everybody's been surprised recently at how irrational Vladimir Putin can behave. So who knows what could happen. No matter how you cut it, though, this is one very innovative and exciting idea that might help the United States and our allies cut the economic knees out from under Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which continues to be a total human rights catastrophe, as demonstrated by the recent Russian attack on a mall in an area of civilians. Yes, it's true. The sanctions are hurting Russia in the long run, as demonstrated by the fact that they just defaulted on their bonds. But what Russia needs to feel is pain in the short run right now that gets people to pressure Putin to stop the invasion in Ukraine. Well, if you want to check out another video I have where I talk about steps the administration can take to address the price of oil, check out this video over here. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.